let's do this. So it is the 15th of May 2022, and this is the SitRep for this Sunday. And I hope that this SitRep finds you well, wherever you are in the world. Mainly Australia, I think. But, there's a couple of New Zealanders. There's, some UK people from the motherland, our British masters. And even some Americans who like to watch the show. If you're from somewhere else, let me know. But anyway, this is where I go through the news stories that catch my eye over the past 24 hours and have a look at it from the perspective of prepping to kind of open our awareness of what's happening in the world, and then so that we can appropriately prepare for what might be coming in our places. Stony Creek, Stumpies, New Zealand, excellent. North or south? Actually, you don't have to tell me. I love both the islands. I'm probably more partial to the south, but I did go hunting last year in the North Island. It was great. Without any further ado, I don't think there's anything that I need to yarn on about today. Apologies to the YouTube people, but the internet was not playing the game yesterday, and so I couldn't get the video up on YouTube. So if you want to see what I was talking about yesterday, jump on Instagram. Okay, let's start off with North Korean zombies. Yeah. North Korean state media. So North Korea has obviously come out and finally admitted 2 years into it that they've got one case of COVID, of the big C, and now it appears that things have got out of hand over there in North Korea. Within 24 hours, it appears that it's blown up over there. Last report that I saw was somewhere around 200,000 people in isolation, but it could be a lot more by now. But here was the interesting thing that I saw in a report, totally unconfirmed, but I found it very interesting and amusing and scary. It's like, whoa, could this be the one? State media has reported 6 killed. So 6 killed. Notice the languaging there, 6 killed, not 6 deaths from COVID, but 6 killed. So, killed by whom or by what? State media has reported 6 killed, 1 death from COVID, from Omicron COVID. So they obviously did the genetic testing and found that it was that particular variant. And 350,000 infections of a rabid fever has spread through North Korea. A rabid fever. For those of you who enjoy a little bit of zombie apocalypse literature, that some, there's always these different ideas if you're reading or watching or playing, zombie sort of stuff, of how it comes about. It's aliens, or it's some disease that crashes on here, or it's a man-made disease, or sometimes it's this like rabid fever, something akin to like what animals get, but then crosses over into humans, and then humans go crazy and start wanting to bite things like other humans. So I just found that quite interesting. Maybe go and dig up your zombie survival guide. Very, very great, amusing book by Max Brooks, who's the son of Mel Brooks, the famous comedian. He wrote a book called Zombie Survival Guide as a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, but also like some of the stuff in there, reading it from a person in my sort of line of work, I'm like, hey, this guy's actually done his research and it's sort of legit. Like, these are things that people should probably think about as far as being prepared for some sort of mass societal collapse, and violent type societal collapse as well. He then wrote a book after that called World War Z, which was a great book, which then got turned into a movie, which had nothing to do with the book at all. But yeah, is this zombies? Is it the start of the zombie apocalypse? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. It's just some funny reporting coming out of North Korea, which is obviously quite restrictive with the reporting they come out. Okay, let's jump over to India now. India, who are going to save the world and be the world's breadbasket. Not anymore. They've just come out and they say they are banning all export of wheat, which they did previously. They said, hey, we're not going to release any wheat out to the world. And then they said, no, actually, we're going to release all the wheat. We're going to buy up heaps of resources off Russia, and then we're going to create all the world's wheat, and we are going to corner the market and become the world's breadbasket. Well, they've come out a week later now and said, yeah, actually, no, back to the original one that we said, no wheat for anyone, just for us. We need that wheat. A lot of countries right now are looking at the food situation in the world. They're looking at the food situation in their own countries, and they're going, yeah, no, we're not going to send this out. This is ours now. To give you a bit of a heads up, some timelines on how India has flip-flopped on this. March 8, their PM came out and said they're going to seize the opportunity to export best quality wheat, and as the demand surges for the Ukraine war. So March 8, we're into the Ukraine war there. March 16th, India is not moving to curb wheat exports. We're not going to increase it. April 13th, we can feed the world if the WTO allows it. So if this world organization allows us, we will feed the world. That's April 13th. May 5th, we need to ensure India emerges as world's source of quality food grain. This is all from their PM, by the way. May 14th, yesterday, India bans exports. They probably should have put in there too. I think it was around May 7th or something. That no, it would have been a little bit May 10th maybe. It wasn't that too long ago where they said no, we're going to send our wheat out. So they've kind of been flip-flopping, going, yes we are, no we're not, yes we are, no we're not, yes we're going to do it, and now they've just gone, no, we're not doing it. Who knows? In 2 days' time, they might come out and say, yeah, we're going to export all our wheat to the world, so you're all okay. But that's another blow to the world food system, and again, it's the poorer countries that are going to hit or going to feel this hit harder than most. And it's got, like, a lot of African countries are going to be feeling this. So watch that space, because it's already happening. It is already happening throughout Africa. And I've got a story on that in a little bit. More food shortages. That storm that I was talking about that happened through the US with those high winds, those dust storms, Haboob. And there's been other storms that have also happened in and around the US. Also, they're having a drought. Also, they're having massive wildfires. But anyway, the storms in particular have done a lot of damage throughout their corn growing area. Not just damage to the corn, but damage to the infrastructure. So it's not like, oh, the corn's buggered. Quick, can we get some more corn on the ground? It's like, oh, we need to fix all this stuff. Silos are destroyed. Irrigation systems are destroyed. Farming equipment, machinery has been destroyed. So a lot bigger effects with this, which is like, what essentially happened. It wasn't just a dust storm, so people get the idea of this. This was like a hurricane inland, an inland hurricane. That's how powerful these winds actually were. So yeah, obviously a lot of damage that's happened through there, and damage to the infrastructure, which is much more severe in my mind than just blowing down the corn. The corn's bad in of itself, but infrastructure is really, really bad. Just more information on, I threw out this story about California employing people to go and find people who are wasting water. Water cops, well, yeah, it is actually happening. Santa Clara Valley Water District in California is poised to establish a civil enforcement authority which will employ water waste investigators. So basically what they're saying is they're going to get these investigators, they're going to go in there, they're going to have the power to walk on anyone's property, doesn't matter if it's private or not, doesn't matter if it's shut off or not, they can go in there and they can find people. And I want to use this languaging that was written in here because I think it's very important. $500 per offence to those they consider are wasting water. That's always a red flag for me. That's a big like sirens going off when it's up to some other human what they consider what is going on. Because the more I look in the media, the more I look around at other people in the general public, the more I am convinced that the average human being is an absolute idiot and cannot make decisions for themselves at this point. Even though I'm always teaching self-reliance, what I'm talking about here is somebody with the authority to enforce something upon someone else based on what they feel. I don't think that's a great idea. I think that, one of the bedrocks of society have been things like constitutions, even though Australia doesn't have one, but the US definitely does. Constitutions or rules or paperwork or fundamentals that have been written up that everyone can then agree on, and we can come back to that. We don't have to come back to some human who makes decisions like arbitrarily, which is essentially the system that we kind of have been sliding into, where what people's sentiment, what people's feelings are, trumps everything else. And I think that's kind of dangerous. So I just wanted to point that out this morning. But yeah, obviously water, like this is a big deal, people. Like, this is something we need to think about, is securing our own water. Casanova has said on the YouTube's India banned export to private firms because of Chinese hoarders, which has been happening, that China has been pulling in a lot of the world's crops and actually hoarding it. So there were some estimates they had 70%, up to 70% of the world's grain supply hoarded in China right now, which, that's a lot. I mean, they've got a lot of the population of Earth there, but not 70%. Government to government agreements are still allowed. Yeah, so they're not shutting off every single grain going to outside of India. There can still be movement of grain, but what they're saying there is like a private firms, private companies, and things like that's not moving. So there are caveats in there to them sending out their wheat. El Nino, don't talk about that. Russia has cut its electricity supply to Finland. As I was talking about yesterday, that they were going to do it. Well, now they've done it. They have shut it off. They've decided what's happening there with Finland moving in towards NATO very rapidly. And overnight, apparently Biden's come out and put his 2 cents in here, saying that they support both Finland and Sweden joining NATO, that they're 100% and they should do it as quickly as possible. I think we're something, the sentiment of his words there. But in retaliation, Russia's done this. They've cut off their electricity being sent into Finland. So what the effect there on Finland is, I haven't seen. Whether they can create their own electricity in some other way or get it sent in from somewhere else. But that's what's happening. This is the world we live in. Again, these are the sorts of things where I'm looking at this like, water supply issues in certain places, electricity supply issues in certain places. So again, it's just a reminder to us as individuals how we can secure our own water supply, how we can secure our own electricity if need be. These are the sort of things that I think you should be investing in, both your time, your money, your effort, everything that you're thinking about right now. This might be one of the areas that you might want to think about. Can you secure your own electricity supply? Because these sorts of things can be cut off quite easily. All right, looking at an analysis by I think it's a think tank. Oh no, it's an individual. Arian warns, beware of global economies with little fires everywhere. So what he's doing is actually he's pointing the picture out, which if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you would have seen as well, that there appears to be these little fires within economies throughout the world. And none of them have exploded. I mean, a few of them have exploded, like Sri Lanka has exploded, Peru has exploded, but not to the point where the average Australian, I think, really even gives a shit. In fact, if I went down the street right now and said, oh man, Sri Lanka, hey, crazy there, I'm almost utterly sure that most people would be like, what? What do you mean? I thought India was okay. I'm like, what? India's not even Sri Lanka. But that's the average Australian, or where I'm at the moment. The fact that their country is in collapse, that Sri Lanka is in collapse, I don't think even registers to a lot of Australians. So, this sort of stuff isn't on the radar. It's not happening to the West, to the developed world. So people don't generally care. They care about what's happening in Ukraine. And they care that petrol is costing a little bit more now. Maybe not even putting the two together. But this is the sort of stuff we need to look out for, because these little fires that are happening, and they're happening with more frequency in more places around the world right now, do have the ability to link up, to become a huge front, essentially. And if that happens, then the effects will start happening to developed countries. But when the effects, let me put it this way: when the effects happen to developed countries, it means, like, when we're feeling the heat, it means that the developing world is on fire, that they're burning or burnt once we start to feel the heat. Again, these are the people that are going to actually feel it. There's I guess a hierarchy or a chain of events that happen, and it's the poorer countries that are going to get destroyed first from this, and then we'll start to feel it, and the poorer in our countries will start to feel it, and then the middle income will start to feel it, and then maybe at the end, I don't know, high income people might start to feel it, but probably not. So one of the statements here, this is actually from Michael Spence, who's an economist, a Nobel laureate as well in economy. The probability of simultaneous growth, energy, food, and debt crises is worryingly high for too many developing countries right now. So it's not just that we're having some sort of economic crisis. It's not just that we're having inflation. It's not just that we're having, pressures of food supply or water supply or energy supply or debt balloons. We're having all these things all at once, and they're pressing in on each other, and people are starting to feel uncomfortable in the world right now. And apart from that discomfort and countries collapsing and stuff like that, it's also manifesting because I think the average person is starting to feel the discomfort from this. So we're going to see increased violence throughout the world. We are having a baby milk shortage in the United States. That's from Mark Stoney Wilcox. Yes, you are. I've seen a lot of stories on this. I've also seen some stuff starting to come out about people talking about buying online from Canada, because apparently Canada does not have the same shortage, and that you can still get stuff sent to you from Canada quite easily, large land border there, into the US. So just if you're worried about that, for anyone who's listening, about baby formula, you need to get it. Canada apparently is a source. Australia, we don't really have that ability. We can't just call our neighbours or anything like that. Hey, New Zealand, just put it on a boat, push it, and blow, and we'll get it. We always have to go overseas to get our stuff. But yeah, that is happening, and also that should tell you something right there. That fact that you've got a landmass. There's an imaginary border across it. One side of that has baby formula, or anything really, doesn't matter what it is. One side has, one side does not. This should be showing you something. Something is not right in this picture. Something is very wrong with the system of governance or the supply chain that you're working in there. That should be a worrying trend there. So yeah, supply chain shortages throughout the world. And as I said yesterday, right now we're seeing it's baby formula shortage. Next week it'll be the east coast of the US will have diesel rationing or something like that. We'll see this shortage. We're going to get to a point, I think, in the not too distant future where it'll just be shortage, like everything. walk into a supermarket and it won't be like, what brand of tuna am I going to get? It's like, hey, can I get a can of anything right now? Is there any there? I mean, it won't be like, oh, we're starving, it's depression era. It might get to that point in months, maybe years' time. But it'll be the amount that we have been used to buying will be curtailed in the not too distant future. So look out for that. Conflagration of small fires. There was another story that I missed. Where was it? It was interesting. Oh, it was about monkeypox. Monkeypox in the UK. As if we didn't need more disease. So we've got zombie apocalypse in North Korea. Now we've got this monkeypox in UK. What's this about? So they found another 2 cases. I did report on this as a bit of a joke, like monkeypox. Hey, they just found this monkeypox in the UK maybe 3 or 4 days ago. Now they found another 2 cases, which apparently are not linked to that original case. Always a worrying sign. Keep your eye on these sorts of things. My opinion of it is, it's like, oh God, here we go again. Another excuse to lock down a population, because that worked so well the first time. India engages in balancing act to steady diamond trade after Russian sanctions sent industry into panic. So are diamonds important? No, they're a girl's best friend, and Stuart's not best friend at all. I don't really care about diamonds. They're not something on my radar at all. It's just another thing. So we're seeing sanctions put on Russia, and who does it affect? Does it affect Russia? I don't know. I'm not in Russia. I can't see what's going on, and all I've got access to is their friggin' propaganda channels. But what I am seeing is the effects on the outside. What actually happens when those sanctions get put on Russia? How do they affect everyone else? So here's yet another example of these sanctions smacking the quote-unquote good guys. I don't know if you can call India good guys at the moment. I'm not sure where they're sitting in the ranking of good versus bad, but this is, the way India works. They've got entire sections of cities, and in fact, they've got entire cities or areas that are based off one industry, because they've got that amount of people that they can kind of do that. So they've got entire areas that are diamond areas, and they're talking about, since the sanctions got put on Russia, Russia produces 33% apparently of diamonds. No diamonds coming out, no diamonds going into here, sales dropping off, all these people hurting. And when we're talking about all these people, it's not like an Australian town where it's like, oh, we've shut down the lumber mill, so now we've got 3,000 people out of work, and this is bad, and that is bad. But this is like 3.5 million people bad all of a sudden who can't feed their families. This is an issue. Like, these sorts of things are because of the scale that we're talking about in places like India, which have a huge population. These sort of small little effects that we don't really think about. So US slaps a sanction on Russia, and 3.5 million people go into poverty in India. And this is the sort of stuff that I want people to like take the step back and actually look at and go like, wow. If US slapped a sanction on China right now, and my goods and services coming from China that I sell off to people, would that affect me? Would I be able to feed my family? What effects are that gonna have for me? Am I gonna be like on the street corner, saying $20 and I'll get on my knees just in order to put food on the family table? This is the sort of stuff we should be thinking about right now, and proofing ourselves against this. So looking at the systems in which we are involved in our lives and going, do I need to be reliant on that system? Can I make another way around that? Can I have more sources coming in rather than just this one? If it gets shut off, I'm screwed. This one I just thought was interesting. Russia signals it wants to exchange Brittany Griner, I think it's Griner, how you say it, for notorious arms trafficker. So Brittany Griner is a WNBA star. I'm not really around this story a whole lot. I only just came across it the other day, but there's a WNBA, so a women's basketball star, who is incarcerated in Russia right now and can't get back home. So Russia has come out and said, all right, they've sent a signal out. I don't know exactly what that is. They're on Signal. But they've said, we want this person who you've got, and we'll swap it for Brittany Griner. That person is Victor Balt, who is a notorious arms trafficker. whose nickname is actually the Merchant of Death. The reason why I find this interesting is you got this dude here. Now, picture this guy. He's like got this like, weird mustache. He's very Russian sort of looking guy with mustache. He's got a black tracksuit with the Adidas tracksuit with red stripes down the side. His nickname is the Merchant of Death. And we've got a basketball player. This kind of, for me, it really shows where the West is concerned right now and where the East or where Russia is concerned right now. What they want is somebody who is the bad man who knows firearms, who knows the industry, who knows how to move things around, who knows how to like smuggle and do this sort of stuff. What we want is a basketball star. These two things don't seem in the same stratosphere to me. They're not playing the same game. All right. They're not in the same stadium. They're not in the same ballpark. They're not in the same game. They're not in the same, postcode. It's like two totally different things. And I think for me, this just sort of personifies or exemplifies what's going on in the world right now. Russia is concerned with war. It's concerned with some long-term sort of stuff. We're concerned with, women's basketball stars. And I'm not saying that Brittany Griner shouldn't be released. She should totally be released. And if they can do that by handing over this dude, then that's up to the US, and maybe they should do that. I'm just showing you, like, I don't think we're worried about the right stuff at the moment. That's my work phone going off. Yep, cool. 1 second. All right, so it's nothing important. I don't have to run off right now. Lucky you. Yep, so, chalk and cheese, really. Okay, back into the US, Newsom, who's the governor of California, the great state of California, proposes an $18 billion relief package to offset inflation. $18 billion to offset inflation. Okay, all right. If you're not sitting there laughing right now, you probably should be. This is the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a while. So we have a government that locks everyone down and stops the economy. And then things start getting bad in the economy. We start getting increases in what the cost of living is, and people's ability to earn is lessened. We have supply chain issues. All these sorts of things are affected by what the government policy was. So they say, okay, people, you can't work. What are we going to do? We'll give you money. They gave money. They gave stimulus checks. They did this a lot in Australia. They gave a lot of money in Australia. What effect does that have? Well, that drives up the price of goods because people know there's money there. People keep spending, but it's only a temporary measure. It also takes money out of the pool of taxes. By the way, where do taxes come from? Oh, they came from the individual who earns money, who can't do that right now because it's curtailed, but we'll give them money and they can pay tax out of that. If your brain isn't hurting right now, then you're probably not understanding what's going on fully. So how do we fix that problem? Let's give them more money. Yes, let's give them more money. That will fix it. Ugh. This is infuriating how stupid this is. And the most infuriating part of it is not just that the government should understand this basic economic principle. They should understand that. They should see this and they should go, no, actually, this is irresponsible. This is utterly irresponsible of us. That's not the worst part. The worst part is that the average Joe will get this money and then go, oh, everything's okay. Average Joe should get this money and go like, this is bad. This is really, really fucking bad. And the average Joe, do you know how much they're looking at actually getting? It's something like $400 per person. It's not enough to like offset inflation at this point. It's not even close. And it's temporary as well. It's a one-off little thing that they're going to get. This is like, if you needed any proof that of government incompetence or negligence, or straight out 100% nefarious intent to tank a system, then this is it. The fact that they're doing this now is just like mind blowing to me. And it wouldn't surprise me at this point if the Australian government did it. That I don't think they can, because we're in a lame duck period where they can't do this. But you wouldn't be surprised if the Australian government would try and promise at least something like this to the Australian people, and the Australian people would eat it up. It would be essentially buying votes. It would be bribery, is the way I look at it. But yeah, this is insanity, absolute insanity. Let's throw another $18 billion at our people, and everything will be fine. No appreciation for the longer term effects. It's not even longer term effects. This is going to affect the American people, and especially the California people, in 6 months' time, where they're going to be in the same problem, but worse now. And there's only so much money they can keep throwing at this problem until they realize that the money that they're throwing at it is the people's money that they involuntarily were forced to give up to them. And so they're then going to go, well, we need more of that money. Where are you going to get it from? I don't know. Maybe if you open your borders and let every single person from the South flood in illegally and then start taxing them at an exorbitant rate, you might be able to fill the coffers. Maybe that's the plan. But as I've said in the past, and I will say again, increased immigration, historically speaking, and these are statistics, increased immigration equals increased violence within a society. And I can prove that. Do you want me to prove that right now? I will. Overnight, bad news, very unfortunate news, but I'm the sort of person who's always looking out for these sorts of things, because this is in my wheelhouse. This is the sort of stuff that I teach people. Active shooter events. 2 of them happened overnight in the US. One in Minnesota after the Boston versus Minnesota game. And I know that because I watch it, because that's one of the 2 sports balls that I appreciate distracting myself with is basketball. It's American basketball. So after that game, there was an active shooter event. There is a number of reports, and I'm yet to verify any of them. That's why I haven't sort of led off with this information, because I want to actually get into the nitty gritty of it. But the Minnesota one, I can't quite figure out. It kind of has some hallmarks of maybe gang type activity, but maybe not. There was multiple shooters, multiple people arrested. I should say, not multiple shooters, but multiple people arrested, multiple casualties, and a bunch of people injured, and multiple spots as well. So it wasn't just outside the sporting arena. There was earlier at least two other shooting events that happened that seemed to be linked to this. So that happened. Then over in Buffalo, in and around a supermarket, there was an active shooter event by a person who put out a manifesto. So I think it was a 180-page manifesto, which I will probably at some stage read. They apparently live, they had a live feed of the shooting as well, which was put up on Twitch, which if I can get access to, I'll probably watch that as well. And I don't recommend people actually watch these sorts of things. It's quite harrowing, but this is my work. This is my bread and butter, and this is what I do. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, just a little adjunct here. Mark Stoney Wilcox has put up there, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, great book to read. So I love book recommendations. I will look that one up. If you could throw an author up there too, it might be quite handy. Then I can go find that one. Back to the active shooter event in the US. So yeah, this is an alleged, I think what it will be eventually labeled as a far-right attack, but it was definitely a white supremacist attack by the initial reports. A man dressed in camouflage gear using, I've seen some of the still images and I recognize some of the weaponry. So it was an AR-15 type weapon, so an assault rifle type weapon that he was utilizing. That was at least one of the weapons. I don't know of any other weapons that he's used, but one of the things that he wrote in the manifesto, and again, I haven't read it, but I'm using secondhand reports, was immigration. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's a statistical fact that as immigration increases, violence also increases. So yeah, that's out there in the news cycle as well. And again, how does this affect us as individuals? What one thing I always like to teach people is the fundamentals of survival are the things we should take care of. And the old rule of threes: 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. That's how long you can survive. But I also like to say 3 minutes without first aid training and equipment, and 3 seconds without situational awareness. So there are bad people out in the world, unfortunately, and they do want to attack people like you and I. So it behooves us to be situationally aware whenever we're in a threat space. And I designate a threat space as anytime you are kind of outside of a locked, secure area like your home. Anytime you're out in the street, you should be paying attention. Even not necessarily for shooters, but you should be paying attention because there are 1 to 2 tons of metal screaming down the tarmac at 60 to 80 k's an hour. You need to pay attention to that. It has a pretty dramatic effect on a human body. So situational awareness is paramount, and I would urge you to practice this whenever you're out in the world. Keep your eyes up. Don't be staring at the phone. Don't be walking around with your headphones in. Keep aware. Keep aware of what's going on. Keep your head up, your head on a swivel, and your eyeballs open, peeled, ready for what's coming. All right, 2 little stories to finish off on. More government asinine. Yep, no worries. You're welcome. I want you to be safe. Virgin Jen 17, I want you to be safe out there. UK government blames old IT systems for preventing benefits increase. I've always found this interesting, even when I was in the military. When I've dealt with anything to do with government, it's always been like this: hey, you stuffed up, or we stuffed up, and we need money off you. Say they stuffed up taxes or something, or I didn't put the right thing on taxes, or sometimes when I was in working for government, they accidentally overpaid me. They need that money back right now. In fact, this happened to me when I was in the military once, and they said, hey, we've been overpaying you for the past couple of months. We just realized it, so we need that money back. So it equals your entire pay packet this fortnight and half of next fortnight. So we're just not paying you then. And I'm like, hey, I've actually got a mortgage I need to pay and bills and stuff like that, and I need to eat. So can you pay me some of it? And I had to go through this rigmarole of almost constant paperwork and bureaucracy for 3 days just to get paid that week. But I've always found it amusing then that if they owed me money, there was this long, complicated system, and it might take 2 to 3 months to get that money. I'm like, that is not fair. That's okay. So that money is now sitting in your bank account earning interest for you, but I can't get it. But if I owe you money, I owe you money right now. Like, man, try and even negotiate with the Australian Tax Office. You can do it. You can negotiate with them, but such a hard thing. But if you owe them money, anyway, the UK has come out. One of their government, their chancellor, the UK chancellor, has come out and said that it's their old IT systems is why we can't increase pay. So they said, yeah, we're going to increase pay in line with inflation and pay benefits in line with inflation, which I looked at the statistics on it. It's nowhere near inflation. Inflation's at 7%. They're increasing at 3%. So it's not in line with inflation, but half, not even half. Okay, some, all right, at least, but they're not paying that because their IT systems are so old. 2.6 million people this affects because the system is unchanged since the 1980s. But there's another 12 million people that are affected, they're pensioners, which their system is even slower. I'm like, are you serious? You haven't updated your system since the 1980s. So what, have we got the old green screen Apple Mac 2 that you're using? Someone's sitting there playing Carmen Sandiego on it. What's going on? I call bullshit on this. And it's one of these things too, that people accept this sort of shit. Whenever there's something that's not a human making the decision, people just go like, okay. We can't do it because our computer systems. People are like, oh, all right. No, this is not all right. Hello, the UK is one of the world's leading economies. Why is your system based on a 1980s program? That's 40 years old. You know what was created in the 1980s? Me. All right. And I reckon I could probably figure out how to pay 2.6 million people faster than this system can. So this is not all right. This is not okay. And this is not something that people should accept in any way. I mean, if you're absolutely beholden and reliant on benefits, I would suggest like finding any other way to create another way to live, whatever that looks like. But some people can't. I get it. And if you are totally reliant on it, then I would be up in arms about this. I would be absolutely up in arms about this because this is not okay. And at the end of the day, if they fix it, you're still only going to get a half the increase that you need against inflation. So, yeah, I'm very anti-government this morning. I wonder why. All right, last little thing that I'm going to talk about is just a little half story. It was just a little thing and video that came up. So I'm not really sure what it's about, but it is in line with what I'm seeing in the world. And I think this is something we need to start paying attention to. Over 2 million people to be displaced from drought in Somalia. I think these sorts of stories are what we're going to see a lot more. We're going to see displacement of people. I think the word... Sorry, my phone is running out of battery. We're going to see a lot of people who are displaced from effects of food shortages, of weather effects and things like that. It'll be labeled under this word climate refugee. It'll be another thing that people can go like climate change, right? But the reality of it is it's going to happen. Places are going to run out of water. Places aren't going to be able to be arable and grow food. Places are going to be destroyed by wildfire, by floods, by hurricane events, by earthquakes, and drought is going to affect people as well. And then we're going to see people start to move en masse. We're going to see migration throughout the world as people start to seek en masse places that they can actually survive in. This is what we're going to start to see in the world, I believe. It's going to be huge. I would my book recommendation. So 2 book recommendations this morning. We had one which was Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars from Mark Stoney Wilcox. Not written by Mark Stoney Wilcox, but he gave us the recommendation. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And my book recommendation for today will be Climate Wars by Gwyn Dyer. There's a lot of books out there called Climate Wars. This one's by Gwyn Dyer. Gwyn Dyer, yeah. And he is somebody who is, he works in a lot of think tanks in the past, and looks at like future events and things like that and what can happen. So he wrote this book on what the actual human effect, what the flow on of the second or third order effect will be from climate change or from the disruptions that we're seeing at the moment. It's an older book now, and I've only actually seen. I used to have a paper copy of it, but I've only ever seen it digital now. So if you know where to get a paper copy of it, let me know. But I recommend it. It's quite good. He writes it as, "Hey, here's the effect. Here's something that will happen in the future," and then the next chapter or the flow on chapter is like a little vignette, a little story where he focuses on an individual or people and what actually happens when they're in this situation, and then he goes on to the next effect. So it's kind of cool like that. It's part factual, part novel, I guess. Pretty good read. I recommend it, but it will get you to start to think about this sort of stuff, about people moving en masse, migration, things like this, of the world that we're heading into, which is going to be a tougher one than I think we're in right now. All right, that's it for today. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for putting in the comments and stuff like that. Shout out to Virgin Gen 17, to Mark Stoney Wilcox, there was someone else in here who put something up. Comic Killer, thanks. Stony Creek, Stumpies, New Zealander, Casanova on YouTube, Fire, 93950 on YouTube. And to everyone who joined me and is watching the videos, really appreciate it. I love it. Love you guys jumping on. Really appreciate everything that you guys are saying, all the questions that you always have. If you've got any other questions, feel free to chuck them through to me. I'm always really happy to answer anything that you guys have got. But until next time, stay safe. Keep your eyes open. Keep aware of what's going on around you. Situational awareness. Keep prepping, and Semper Paratus.